Hello, Lady L. Hey guys, this is Anne Marie, aka the anti-HRHR lady. And I am going live this evening. See my shoes? I've been packing up some shoes. If people know me, they know that I'm a shoeaholic. People who are really good friends with me know that. I have lots and lots of shoes, and I'm trying to pack up and get rid of some things. So that's what you see in the background. Let me put my microphone on because I just did. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Got my wine ready. So today we are going to talk about the places that I have been on travel that I have found the least welcoming as a black woman. I'm going to wait a little bit, see if more people join, then I'm just going to talk about it. I've been to close to 40 countries now, I think, and counting. I don't really spend a lot of time counting where I've been. Let me get the lights. I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, I don't want it to be too bright. Can't do anything about these shoes, so it's just gonna have to stay there. Forgot to move them before we got started, so they're just gonna be there. Anyway, let's see who's on. Drinking my favorite Rosado. Where is... If you guys are drinking, tell me what you're drinking. I see in the chat, but I can't see who's on here. But let's see. But anyway, so yeah, I've been to like 40, at least close to 40 countries. I've been traveling a lot this year. I'm actually getting ready to go somewhere else soon. I'll tell you all about that later. I actually feel like it's time for me to sit still for a minute. So I think when I get back from this trip, I'm not going to go anywhere for maybe 30 days. Girl, I need this wine. I had a full work day today, so I'm kind of tired, but I didn't want to cancel again. This is what I'm drinking. It's a Mexican wine. For those who don't know, I live in Mexico, but it's my favorite rosé. It's a little sweet. I do like sweet lines. Some people like really dry. I don't. So it's from a winery that's not that far. It's not in the same town, but it's not that far, and it's really good. I went on a winery tour, and that's how I found out about it. And I really like it. So we always keep bottles handy. My earring is acting weird. Anyway, so I've traveled to over, close to 40. If I haven't hit 40 yet, I'm close to 40. I think I might hit 40 by the end of this year, but we'll see. I have to go look at where I've been, because like I said, I don't really spend a lot of time counting, but I know it's over 35, so I'm close to 40. Anyway, I'm happy to say that most places I've been, I've felt very good about being there as a black woman. I never had to really think about it. There are places that I've gone where I have felt very conscious of being a woman. And if you'd like me to talk about that in this conversation, just comment and I will. But there's only, to be honest with you, two places that in one country, two places that I have felt unwelcomed, and I felt that I was unwelcomed because I was black, right? And both of those places are in the same country. And incidentally, my favorite city in the world is also in that country. So if you've been following me, you've probably already guessed that I'm talking about Italy. I have a love-hate relationship with Italy because of that. My absolute favorite, hi Audrey, absolute favorite city in the entire world is Florence. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know that I love Florence. Florence is, I just love it. I think it's magical. I always feel really welcomed, happy when I go there. From the first time I ever visited back in 2017, I just fell in love with it. And if there weren't so many other places in the world that I wanted to still see, I would go to Florence every year. From 2017 to 2020, when everything shut down, I went to Florence every single year between 2017 and 2020. And it was the first country I returned to went to on vacation, not counting Mexico, which is where I live, as soon as COVID restrictions started dropping. One of the first places I went back to was Florence and Italy. So I love Italy. There are lots of wonderful things about Italy. But I will say that the two places that I've been where I have actually been treated in ways that was obvious to me that it was driven by race and that they were just being straight up racist was Rome, Italy, and Venice, Italy. Two places that I don't need to ever see again as long as I'm black. Now, Rome is a major place of transfer, so I still transfer through Rome for travel because I find it to be the easiest place to get to other places in Italy. But I have no interest in ever visiting Rome as a place, studying, stopping through there to see anything. I feel like I went, I saw the things I want to see, and now I have no desire to go there. The incident that I experienced was shopping, going in a store. People who know me know that I like high-end handbags. I don't buy them as much as I used to, but it's a thing that I've always liked, collecting handbags. So the two times that I've experienced rude people or just straight up racist behavior were in stores, in Fendi in Rome and in the Louis Vuitton store in Venice. And one time I was by myself. The first time in Rome I was with my friend who was a white woman. And she noticed it really right away, and she actually is the one who called it out. And then we left the store because I wasn't going to spend any money in a store where people were being disrespectful and ignoring me and pretending that I wasn't there. And the same thing happened to me in Louis Vuitton. I was looking for a particular bag, and they acted like I was not there until I left to go to the second floor of the store. And then someone really obviously followed me, I guess, to make sure I didn't steal anything. But nobody thought that they should ask me what I wanted. And so I left the store, and I ended up buying the bag at the Louis Vuitton in Mexico City, where they treated me wonderfully. So those are the two places that I've been in Rome. And Rome in particular, I found overall that the people were not very friendly in Rome to me. And I noticed the difference between the way people treated me and just reacted to me when I would walk in somewhere versus my friend, or if I would walk in somewhere and she'd walk in behind me. I noticed that as well. So I would definitely say, and I have a friend who lived in Rome, and she told me it was one of the worst experiences of her life, and she's actually of African descent. And she told me it was a horrible experience living in Rome, that she was consistently treated poorly and that they were very racist. So I realized that it was not only my experience, and that my experience was probably mild in comparison to what people who are African and obviously from the continent of Africa experience. I feel like at least two other times, I feel that I have gone into places in Italy, and as soon as I started talking and they realized that I was American, they were really, really polite. But when I first walked into the store, they weren't. They didn't say, "Hi, how are you doing? Can I help you?" But as soon as I talked or asked a question or something, then they were smiling and happy and nice and whatever. But Rome and Venice were places where I felt the service in stores was very obvious. In Rome, it was even just going into boutiques and restaurants and things like that. I just found people to be very unwelcoming, not smiling, not happy to see you kind of treatment. So like I said, Rome is not a place I love. The other place I didn't terribly love was Milan. I feel that I was racially profiled at the airport. When I arrived, there was a police, I don't know if he was a customs officer or what he was, but when you were going through the last stop in the airport to leave the airport, I noticed that basically he was flagging down every black and brown person he saw to search their suitcases. And so I was walking right past him, and he sees me, and I saw him see me, and he points at me and waves me over to the table where they were already searching someone who looked like they were from Bangladesh or something like that. And then as soon as I opened my mouth, and I was like, "Why are you stopping me?" And he heard I was American, and he asked me what airport I had arrived from. And I said JFK, and he said, "Oh, you're fine," and he let me go. If that ain't racial profiling, I don't know what it is. So Milan was on my crap list pretty much from that moment. I was flying through there on the way to somewhere else, so I wasn't really going there as my destination, but I ended up staying a couple days on the back end of that trip on the way back from Florence. Milan is actually an inexpensive place sometimes to fly into. You should always check airline rates if you're going to Italy because you can take the train from a lot of places. So sometimes it's cheaper to fly into like Milan Airport or Bologna instead of Rome. Florence Airport is usually always more expensive, so I'm always like, fly to Milan, take the train to Florence, or fly to Bologna, take the train to Florence, or fly to Rome, take the train to Florence. From Rome, it's the longest, but sometimes you get the best rates. But I wasn't impressed with Milan. Hi there, Marcia. Wasn't impressed with Milan as a city. And that interaction from the time I got there kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But I will say that when I went shopping, went to cafes, things like that, service was good. Hotel I stayed at, very polite, very well treated. But I did observe, and this is something I observed on more than one occasion, it being in Italy, not just in those places, but primarily in those places, that the way I was treated as a black person was different because I was American. I noticed people being very rude and disrespectful to people from Africa on the trains, in the bus stations, and other places, but polite to me because they could either look at me and tell that I was American, or I said something and they could tell that I was American, and so they were nicer to me. The places where I did not experience that were Florence and Sicily. After Florence, Sicily is like one of my favorite places. I love it there. Everywhere I went in Sicily, and I went to Catania, I went to Ragusa, I went to Taormina. Taormina is incredibly beautiful, by the way. Just as beautiful as Portofino or Capri or any of those places, but less expensive. I was treated really well, very welcoming. People were super, super nice, and the food is just out of this world great. So if Sicily is not on your list, highly recommend it. If you know, I'm planning some group meetup trips next year, and Taormina and Florence, Tuscany area are going to be two of the destinations because I would really like to meet up with some other people, meet up with some fly black women, and hang out in some of my favorite places. So I'm planning some meetups. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to my website. You can get more details. I should have more of the trips posted in another couple weeks. But definitely want to go back to Taormina. I definitely want to go back to Florence. I just feel like if you want to travel and you haven't yet been to Florence, I feel like if you go to Italy and you haven't been to Florence, have you really been to Italy? I don't think so. Amazing place, great food, art, culture, and the people are super nice, and the shopping, and all of it. I just love that place. So it's definitely, I'm planning to put together a trip to to Tuscany, with the base being Florence, with excursions around the Tuscany region, wine tastings and other things, shopping, stuff like that. Siena is also quite beautiful. It's in Tuscany, Pisa, some other places like that. And in that part of Italy, I've just found people to be super welcoming, super nice. Many people have told me that northern Italy, that's where the most racist Italians are located. Not sure why that is, but that's something I've been told many times. I can only talk about what I've experienced, and so based on what I've experienced, that seems to be true. Florence is in the southern part of the country, and people just there were super nice. When I went to Bologna, people were pretty nice. So that's just something to be aware of. Italy is a country I feel that is worth visiting. I'm not going to tell you don't go to Italy, because I wouldn't even tell you not to go to Rome, because a lot of history and places that are worth seeing are in Rome. But I would say if you're going to Rome, go for a short period of time. You can see the Colosseum, the Vatican, and whatever else it is that you want to see. The Sistine Chapel, which was the highlight for me. You can do all of that in about 2 days. Like 2 nights, be out of there by the 3rd day. I don't think Rome is a place that I would stay. Like if I was going with someone because they really wanted me to go with them, I would not agree to be in Rome for more than 2 days at the most. I do not like it. People are just rude, and they're not friendly, and they're racist. I'm sorry if you're Italian and you're from Rome and you're watching this video. I'm not saying all of you are. I'm just saying the majority of the people that I have met in your city have showed their asses to be racist. It is what it is. My bad. Not really. So it's not a place I would recommend. I really feel like the things that I experience and the reputation that I have, that the city has, is well earned, right? Now, a little word on places that I've been where I felt I was very aware that I was a woman and that I felt like I stood out because I was not just because I was a black woman, but because I was a woman, was when I went to Jordan and when I went to Tunisia. And both places I went for work, so I was with other people, and I was there for business meetings, things like that, and I also took time to visit. Now, I'm not saying that people were mean or rude, but there were just places like when I went to the gym, I was the only woman in there. At the hotel, it was all men. No other women were in there working out but me every single day, because this was a time when I used to exercise like it was my job every single day, even when I was traveling. I noticed a lot, like one time we were out with a coworker who was also American but based in Jordan. This was in Amman. And we were going to get shawarma, which is a amazingly delicious sandwich. If you've never had shawarma, put it on the list of things that you should eat before you die. And we noticed that we were the only women. It was kind of like 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening. And we noticed that we were the only women on the line. So it's me, a black woman, and 2 white girls on a line trying to get some shawarma, right? And we're standing there, and it's us and a bunch of men on the line getting the sandwich. And so I said to my coworker, who actually lived in the country, I said, well, how come we're the only women? I said, Jordanian women don't like shawarma? And she said, well, at this hour of the day, if they wanted shawarma, they would probably send their brother or their father or one of the men in their family to go get it for them. That's all she said. I don't know if she was right. I don't know if she was wrong. I'm just saying. Again, I didn't feel that anybody was mean to me, that they were disrespectful. Actually, I found the people to be extremely welcoming, very kind, very helpful. But I felt like I stood out as someone who was just walking up and down the street and doing things. I remember being in a mall with several of my co-workers who were based in the country and some of whom were nationals. And I do remember that the guys in the group made a point of accompanying me and my co-worker, who were both from the States, everywhere that we went in the mall. They did not even let us go to the Starbucks by ourselves. I don't know why that was. Maybe it was cultural. Maybe they were being helpful or whatever. But I remember it because I was kind of like, oh, I'll just go by myself and you guys can go with her, because my coworker was looking for a place where she could get a SIM card. And one of the guys was like, it was 2 of them with us. He was like, he will go with him. I'll come with you to Starbucks. And I was like, it's okay. I can go by myself because, you guys can go with her. And he was very insistent and once he insisted, I didn't want to make an issue out of it. So I was like, sure, fine. And he walked with me to the Starbucks. So it was one of those kinds of things where I just got the sense that as a woman, I wasn't supposed to be there by myself. I'm not sure, or whether they were just culturally being helpful and making sure that I was, okay. Amman is extremely safe, and it's probably one of the cleanest cities I've ever been to in my life. So I didn't feel it was for safety reasons. So I don't know, but I just remember that, and something similar happened again while we were there. Now I realized that I was probably the most senior person, and so maybe they wanted to make sure that everywhere I went that I had somebody with me, that I get lost. But it was one of those incidents. It was not just a single incident. It was multiple incidents similar to that, where I just really felt like, would I be experiencing this if I was a guy in this country, right? So, and in Tunisia, there were several similar type things that happened that made me kind of be more aware that as a woman I needed to conduct myself in a certain way. And I obviously did research about appropriate dress and things like that, and made sure that you didn't have to wear coverings or anything like that, but I always made sure that the dresses I wore were up to my neck here. I wore cardigan sweaters over my sleeveless dress so that my arms were covered. I made sure my dresses were at least at my knees or past my knees. And I didn't wear any any tight clothes and things like that when I was going into the office, to be respectful culturally. But I felt overall I enjoyed both places. I definitely feel they're worth visiting if you've never been. But I did feel that it was clearly a more patriarchal type environment than what I was used to. But I didn't feel that anyone was rude or racist, right? So I felt that when I was in London. You know what I mean? I felt that when I was in London. Not in London, in Rome. Rome and like I said, Venice. Those are the two places. Venice, it wasn't as bad, but those women were obviously being racist in that store. Out and about in Venice, I didn't experience what I experienced out and about in Rome. But I would say that Venice to me is highly overrated, and I'll never need to be back there again. I've been twice. That's more than enough. I don't need to do Venice again. Have no desire to. And it's sinking anyway, so if you want to go, hello there. You better get there soon, because the city is literally sinking and starting to flood all the time. Do I think it's worth going to? I believe everywhere just about is worth going to. You guys know I have a short list of no-fly zones I call places I would never need to go to, ever. China, India, Russia. Not particularly interested in Saudi Arabia. I'm considering Dubai, but I'm still on the fence about it. I've flown through Qatar. I feel like that was enough. Qatar's super clean also. I have a thing about going to places where I feel like I could get in trouble if I kissed a man in public. Not saying I go all over the world just kissing strange men in public, but I'm just saying. So I have a wariness of going to places in the Middle East, because again, I want to make sure that I'm always respectful wherever I go, and I pay attention and follow the cultural, norms and so on. And so I'm thinking about Dubai, seriously thinking about going to Dubai, but I'm pretty sure even if somebody was willing to pay me, I'm not sure I would be willing to go to China, India, or Russia under any circumstances. I'm not sure about Saudi Arabia either, even though I know they're opening up and they're welcoming people to come as tourists. I'm still kind of on the fence about that, but I would probably go there before I would go to any of those other three countries that I just mentioned. But I feel like there's still so much world that I haven't seen that, hi there, Kimmy from Texas. I've been looking at a computer all day today working, so my vision is almost shot today, which is why I'm wearing glasses, because if I don't have my glasses on, I won't be able to see anything. But I feel like like I said, there's so much world still to be seen that I feel like I have a lot of runway of other places to go before I would even have to be like, oh, where have I still not been? Still a lot of places that I want to go. But right now, that's what stands out in terms of places that I have been where I have felt very obvious racism. I've been other places where I've been stared at, but I'm a black, bald woman. I expect people to stare at me. So I don't take offense if people stare at me, because you can tell the difference between people staring at you out of curiosity and people staring at you out of disgust, right? So somebody's writing about Dubai. Dubai is very safe to me. A lot of Africans, let's see, haven't been to Egypt yet. That's later this year. I'll be doing a video about Egypt when I get back from it. Trying to see the questions and it's not showing me. Show chat. I want to see you guys' questions. Okay, wait a minute. I've heard really good things about Dubai. I really can't say that anybody that I know that has been there hasn't said that they enjoyed it, which is why I'm thinking about going, right? But I also know that despite all the fun things to do, that you can get arrested if you cross the line really fast, right? And it is still a conservative country, culturally speaking. And so I'm really wary about that. I still think I'm very aware of it. And I think like if I went, I would still be like really like on my P's and Q's kind of while I was there. I don't think I would be super comfortable. I've heard, everyone that has gone to Egypt has said that the men there were super aggressive, and the vendors are very aggressive. I've heard people trying to sell you stuff. I'm going with a group, and I made a conscious decision to go to Egypt with a group because people had told me a lot about what it was like being there. I've watched YouTube videos of people being there as women by themselves and that they did not have really good experiences. And I know what my temperament is. So I am going with a group. And I think that because we're going with a group, we're going to have escorts and things like that. I probably won't experience as much of that as if I was going by myself, and that's perfectly fine with me. I've also heard that Cairo is the most problematic part of those tours, but to see the pyramids of Giza, you kind of got to go to Cairo. So thankfully, my tour is only going to be in Cairo for like, I think, a day. And then we head out to some other places. We get there, go to Giza the next day, and then we leave. So I'll definitely be shooting video. I'll definitely be sharing stuff, and I will definitely do a live about Egypt when I get back. But again, you know, like I said, I really feel like it's important to do your homework about places and to know a little bit about somewhere, or as much as possible actually, about somewhere before you go, so that you can be prepared and you can know where it's okay to go by yourself and where you should go with a group. I never believe, unless, you know, it's just places you don't want to go, and everybody has a right to do that, because like I said, I have places I don't want to go. But just if you don't think you would be okay as a woman to go somewhere alone, then always look into options of going with a group, right? So that you don't, if there are places you really want to go, don't let not being able to go by yourself be the reason you don't see it, because there are lots of groups. I'm going to be doing groups, as I said, starting next year to certain places, and there are lots of people who do group trips. So just trying to find your tribe, find people that, you know, like to do things that you like to do, and go in a group with them and see the place anywhere. And Egypt is definitely a place that I would not go alone. If you want to go to India, I don't. But if you want to go to India, that's another place that I would strongly recommend as women, especially Black women, that you don't go alone. And Morocco is another place I would probably not go alone, but I would definitely like to go. It's on a short list of places I'm looking at for group trips because I want to go there. And Tunisia. I think Tunisia is worth visiting. I'm not sure I would tell you as a woman to go there alone, but I definitely think it's worth visiting. So, you know, to tell you all the reasons why I don't think you should go to India would take a whole nother live. I would suggest that you Google women in India. All the information will come up. Or is it safe to travel to India alone? All the information will come up about India. So I would not go to India. Well, I don't want to go to India at all. But if I were going, I wouldn't go alone, right? But I think if you want to go, do your homework. Right? Do your homework, probably stay away from any type of public transportation. Be very careful about going out at night by yourself. Like, I would say don't do it at all. There are lots of things that you would have to do. The Maldives, I've not been to the Maldives. I'm actually thinking of doing a trip of the Dubai and the Maldives at the same time. Now, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about the way that some Black people are welcome to the Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles. And I'm watching, you know, content, but I generally don't let other people's experience color places that I really want to go. And I am thinking about going to those places, probably for short trips when I'm in the actual vicinity. But I usually don't like to stay in places with beaches. The only place in Africa that I've been to with a beach that I fell in love with and absolutely would have stayed longer was Zanzibar. Generally speaking, I don't, you know, I'll get bored after a couple of days. So I'm trying to plan a trip with Dubai and the Maldives in one trip, so I can do them both, because you can get from Dubai to the Maldives and back. So I may, you know, I plan to get there at some point, but I don't think I want to fly all the way from this part of the world to the just to go to the Maldives. I would want to pair it with another place. But, you know, is there any questions about anything that I've shared so far in this live? It's almost 30 minutes in. I'm trying to see your comments, but right now it's not showing them to me. I don't know why. But, oh, I just saw, oh, look at that. Look at my cousin, Linda. Y'all say hi to my cousin. She's one of my favorite people. Linda, Paris. Now, I liked Paris. I would like to go back to France, and I actually would like to go back. I liked Paris. I did not love Paris, right? I liked it. I went with my sister and my cousin, who's almost like my sister, Linda, actually. I went with Lisa. And I enjoyed a part of what was wonderful about that trip to me. Hi from London, one of my favorite cities in the world. What I enjoyed about Paris was being there with two of my favorite people in the whole world, my sister and my cousin Lisa. And we did the Eiffel Tower, which you totally got to do when you're there, but watch your purse because they just be stealing, like blatantly picking people's pockets. I think it's worth visiting if you've never been, but the Parisian people are not particularly warm. I didn't think they were as rude as people said that they would be. So I got there, expected people to be super rude, and I didn't experience that. I mean, we stopped on the street, asked people questions, things like that. What I did find is if you led with French, and I know next to no French words, but I loaded words in my Google, and I led with French. And my sister is a whatever you call people that learn multiple languages. My sister's one of those people, and she knows a lot more French than I speak. And so we led by asking people things in French, and then right away they knew we were American and they would speak to us in English. And I feel like doing that warmed them up more. Parisians can be really funny with Americans because Americans, sometimes we go to places and we're kind of out of order ourselves. So I found that, talking to people and using your French, any amount of French that you could, to ask for directions, to order things in restaurants, opened people up some. So I didn't have the experience that a lot of people talk about how bad the French are, but I just didn't love Paris. I liked it. I would go back, but I definitely think it's worth it. I think you will enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed going to that flagship Louis Vuitton store. I'm telling you, they treated me like a celebrity. I had a ball. But go see the Eiffel Tower, and the Palace of Versailles is amazing. And I had a really good, we ate good food. Not, I didn't feel the food was out of this world great, but there was this one restaurant that we went to that was pretty good. And go see the arch and see all the things. I definitely would recommend, when going to the Eiffel Tower, make sure you're very careful of your stuff. Don't have a lot of cash or credit cards. If you have a credit card on you, make sure you have a purse or a wrist wallet that has the thing that RFID technology, where someone can't lift your credit card number off your credit card while it's in your purse. Carry a crossbody that you can either put, or I like those bra wallets. When I was in Paris, I actually kept my money in a bra in my clothes. And don't, if you're going to the Eiffel Tower, especially be careful. I would say stay off the train system where they steal a lot from people. I've heard people losing their passports, their wallets, all kinds of stuff, even when they thought they had it in a secure place. We took Uber, so we didn't really deal with any of that. But when we were in the Eiffel Tower, we were hyper careful because I saw somebody try to pick somebody's pocket while we were out by the Eiffel Tower. So, and they have recordings playing telling you to be careful with your stuff when you're going up the elevator to the top of the tower. So especially when you go to those high traffic tourist spots, and if you're on the train station, be hyper vigilant with your stuff. But beyond that, Paris is amazing in terms of the history and the art and so on. I do want to go back to France because I would like to go to the south of France. When the first time I ever went to France was on a cruise, and I took my son. I was with my sister. Cruise is not a good way to see France, by the way, but we stopped and we went through the south of France. We went to Monaco. It's absolutely beautiful. I would like to go back. I would love to go back to Nice. Nice is beautiful. So the places that I want to go to France are really not in Paris. There is a Black Paris tour that if you can do that while you're in Paris, Linda, I would say to try to do that. I think you can book it on Viator. And, WhatsApp me if you have other questions. But I think Paris is worth visiting, and I want to go back because I want to give it another visit before I conclude whether I like it, love it, or don't need to ever go back. That's why I went back to Venice, because I wanted to be sure about whether I loved it or hated it, or, and I just concluded I don't hate Venice, but I don't need to go back there. to me, it's not worth another visit. Florence, I will keep going over and over. Venice, I'll never need to go back to. So that's my answer about. Yes, I talked about Italy already. I talked about Rome. Rome is the number one place I have no interest in ever going back, where I think are filled with racists. Sorry, Rome, but y'all shouldn't have been the way you were when I went there. Both times that I went there. So yeah, Rome is probably the number one place that I feel that I have literally expressed places outside of the United States, let me add, outside the United States, that I have feel like people have been blatantly, like openly, like out of order racist, would be Rome, Italy. Venice, they were also rude in the store, that one store I went to, but the rest of it was fine. What was the other question someone just asked about Mozambique? I have not been to Mozambique. I was actually supposed to go to Mozambique in 2020 and didn't get to go because of COVID for a work trip. So I have not yet been to Mozambique. Egypt, as I said, I'm going to Egypt this fall. I'm also going to Greece this fall for the first time. Very excited about Greece. It's been on my bucket list for a long time. I'm planning to do Athens, Santorini, and Mykonos, because I'm not going for a super long period of time. So those are the only places I'm going to be able to see before I come back. But I'm very excited about going back to Greece for the first time. And I'm going back to Sicily for my birthday this year. So I'm super excited about that, because you guys have already heard me say how much I love Sicily. I'm going to visit Palermo, which I went to Palermo, but I was only there for one day and I really loved it. So I'm going back to Palermo, and then I'm going to go to Mondello, which is a beach town, and Cefalù. I'm going to get on the train and visit those places, and then spend more time in Palermo. They have some really nice museums and amazing Middle Eastern inspired architecture there, because they were occupied by the Moors and the Arabs for a very long time. Love London. You will love London. I love London, and I can't wait to go to Greece. I would love to hear what you think of London. London is probably my second favorite place besides Florence. I've been to London several times, and every single time I've been there, I had a ball. I used to actually, when I was working in international development, I started having my assistant just fly me through London so I could stay like for a couple of days before I would come back to the States, because I just enjoyed the town. I mean, you can it's kind of like New York with a fancier accent, because you can do so many things there. You can get good West Indian food there. You can go see, great art and museums. They know how to make a good cocktail in London. They got good restaurants, even though their actual food is crap. Like, don't bother with the bangers and the mash and the fish and the chips. Just skip that. Don't eat that. It's not good. But you can get great Indian food, great West Indian food. And in London, I've not been outside of London. I actually would like to visit some of the other places in the UK, in Britain, because I've not been. I want to go to Bath actually, but I've not been outside of London because I just never had a reason. Felt like I needed to do anything outside of London. I always just enjoyed hanging out in London. I have some friends there, and I would just hang out in London. Any other questions for me before I go about places? So like I said, to recap for those who just are hopping on, least favorite place, well, I wouldn't say it's my least favorite place, but I would definitely say it's the place that I went to that I experienced like very obvious racism was Rome, with with other honorable mention to Venice and Milan. So while I absolutely love Italy, I don't love those three places. And I didn't. Now Rome, like I said, I feel it is worth seeing if you've never been there. Vatican City, Colosseum. I'm not going to tell you not to go. I think those things are worth seeing. Some of them are breathtaking, like to see them in person. The Sistine Chapel took my breath away. So I would never say don't go. But once I saw the things I wanted to see, I don't really feel like I need to go back to Rome because of what I consistently experienced each time. Well, the first time it wasn't bad, but the second time and the third time that I've been there. So I feel like, I didn't feel like it was a one-off thing that I experienced. Concern with Russia have to do with the war, or is it something else? No, it doesn't have anything to do with the war. I didn't want to go to Russia even before that. No, it doesn't have anything to do with the war. I worked in international development for a long time. There are things that I don't talk about on social media, but there are things that I know and understand because I worked in that sector for a long time. So some of the places that I wouldn't go, there are other reasons besides the things that you probably read in the paper why I don't want to go to those places. I have a lot of friends that work in security around the world, and I always consult them about certain places. So I just, those places are not high on my list. Eastern Europe. Actually, been all around Eastern Europe as part of my work in international development. I'll tell you the places that I enjoyed the most. I've been to, I'll tell you where I've been. I've been to Georgia. I've been to Ukraine. Glad I got to do that before everything that's happening there. But I've been to Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova. I don't know if Croatia is considered Eastern Europe. It's kind of in the middle. Of those places, my favorites, if we count Croatia, which I don't think technically is Eastern Europe, my favorite would be Croatia. After Croatia, I loved Georgia. If you have not been to Georgia, put it on your list. Get over there too, sweet. Amazing country. It's on the Black Sea. People are so nice. And I swear black people had to have lived there sometime because the food is amazing. I'm not kidding. There's actually a restaurant in Washington, D.C. that I try to go to almost every time I visit. I used to live in Washington, D.C. before I moved. And it's Georgian. It's one of my favorite restaurants in the whole world. I love Georgian food. They can cook. I also I liked Serbia. I enjoyed Belgrade. I went to Belgrade. Had the most amazing oxtail risotto in Belgrade. Me and my friends still talk about that oxtail risotto to this day. I love good food, y'all. So a lot of places stand out to me if I had a really good meal there. Also, Montenegro. I can't talk about Croatia without talking about Montenegro. If you are in Dubrovnik, make it your business to do a day trip or even spend the night in Montenegro. I did an 11-hour day trip to Montenegro. It's a very small country right next door to, not far from the border. The border is close to Dubrovnik. Oh my God, that place is beautiful. And the people are the sweetest. So I know that Eastern Europe has a reputation for being racist. And there's certain countries in Eastern Europe that I would not go to because about what I'm aware of their issues with race. Bulgaria is one of them. That is not high up on my list. I'm not saying never, 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 but it's not high up on the list of places that I want to go because of things that I've read about it. I will say that Ukraine, I got stared at a lot in Ukraine. And some of the staring wasn't friendly staring. But nobody was openly mean because I went out by myself and, went in stores and stuff and people were nice. But I did get stared at a lot. I remember at one point I was in this underground shopping thing. And I have, I have friends who have experienced like open racism in Ukraine, but they were not black. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen because, if you read, you hear about how some of the Ukraine refugees are conducting themselves in other parts of Europe now as they interact with black and African people. But I would say that pretty much everywhere that I went, I didn't feel like I experienced a lot of curious stares. Particularly in Moldova and Ukraine, but I didn't experience like open like disdain and why are you in my store kind of stuff. But there are a couple of times when I walked down the street and people weren't looking at me and like they were necessarily happy to see me. But I would say it wasn't a common. It only happened once or twice. I've only been to Barcelona in Spain. And I was just there to get on a cruise ship, so I don't feel like I can really speak about Spain. I spent like a day in Barcelona with my son, and I don't feel like I loved it there, but I don't feel I was there long enough to make a judgment about it. And I've never been to Madrid. I would actually like to go to Madrid. So I'd like to go to Spain and spend some time. I have a friend who's lived in Madrid for a while and he always speaks really highly of it. So I would like to go to Madrid and probably go back to Barcelona and go to the coast of Spain, which I've seen. If you watch, I'm a big fan of La Reina del Sur, Queen of the South. It's a series it's a telenovela on Netflix. I love it. It helps me with my Spanish, but it's also part of it is set on a town. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's on the coast of Spain, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it made me really want to go visit the coastal areas of Spain. I've heard great things about Malaga, about Valencia. So I would like to like go to Spain, but there's a couple other places that are going to come ahead of it for my trips for 2024. So I can't say it's in the immediate itinerary of travel, but it's definitely on a list of places that I would like to go. So yeah, as far as Eastern Europe is concerned, I've had overall good experiences traveling there, and I definitely recommend Georgia. I mean, I really do recommend going to Georgia, to Tbilisi in Georgia, and having the food and the wine, and they make great wine in Georgia as well. I would like to check out Albania as well. I've heard mixed, like good things, and but I feel like more good things than not about Albania. So I would like to visit Albania. I heard they have a lovely like coastal towns that are nice to visit in the early summer, late summer, like fall, early late summer. Not late summer, I'm sorry. It's the wine. I don't regularly recommend visiting Europe in the summer because it's super expensive and it's crowded. But I've heard Albania is actually a good place to visit if you want to go to Europe in the summer. That's not super expensive and won't be as crowded as places like Italy. But I always recommend that you travel in what I call shoulder season. So I would say even Croatia, when I went in early May. The first time, and the next time I went in, like, I think it was in the fall. I went to Dubrovnik, definitely was in the fall. And then I went to Croatia in the, not Croatia, Split, Croatia. Between the two places, Split and Dubrovnik, I like Split better. But I like Dubrovnik too. So I think they're both worth visiting. And then there is, what is the name of the other place? I have a friend who went to this other town on the water in Croatia. It's breathtaking. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I want to go there. The next time I go to Croatia, I want to go there. Yes, I've been to Portugal. I really enjoyed it. I liked Porto the most. I enjoyed Lisbon, but I really loved Porto. I thought Porto was really, really pretty and really nice. And I also went to the Algarve. I went to, what is the name of the town I went to? It didn't impress me as much, but to be fair, it was raining almost the entire weekend I was there. So I only got one really nice day to go out and see stuff. And all the other days it was rainy and overcast, and it was September, so it was kind of cold. I've never been to Valencia, so I can't give any thoughts about it because I've never been there. I don't know if anyone else has been, but I've never been there. Yeah, so I don't want to say that, Australia is fantastic. Australia was one of the best trips I've ever been on. But about the Algarve in Portimao, that's where I went. Portimao, which is a part of the Algarve, which is on the coast of Portugal. You don't want to go there. Don't do what I did. Don't go in April. I would say probably go, if you're going to the coast, like I want to go to the Azores Islands, I'll probably do that in early September. But I wouldn't go back to Portugal in April. It rained a lot. It was cold. It was fine being in like the city centers, but it wasn't a really nice place to be like on a beach area or, seaside in that weather. So don't go in April. Like probably try to go like mid-May. I heard it's really nice in mid-May and it's not crowded yet, but don't go when I went. I went in April. That wasn't a good call. Australia. Oh, Australia. I went on a trip to Australia. I went for New Year's. Highly recommend it. Those people know how to do New Year's. I'm telling you. Australians like to party and they're a lot of fun. And while I'm aware, Australia definitely has racial issues. There's no question about that. I didn't experience any personally. I felt people were super welcoming, but I noticed that I didn't see any Aborigines. I didn't see any indigenous people when I was in Sydney or when I was in, I think I saw a handful in Melbourne. And I remember, I actually asked the guy about it in a store because they were selling all this like indigenous stuff. And everybody in the store was white. And I was like, well, where are the indigenous people? Why are you all in here selling? And a friend of mine who was in the store with me, this girl actually made friends with her on the plane I met her on the plane going to Australia, and we're still really good friends to this day. And she was giggling because I was asking the man, I was like, why are you all in here selling all this indigenous stuff and ain't no indigenous people in here? And you're saying indigenous artists made it. Well, where are the indigenous artists, and how do I know that they're going to get this money? And I don't feel comfortable buying anything in a store where you're selling indigenous art and there aren't any indigenous people in there. And he just was looking at me like I was crazy. And I didn't buy anything because I felt a kind of way about it. So I bought my stuff somewhere else. But Sydney, I mean, Sydney is beautiful. It's a first-class city. It's amazing. I had wanted to go to Australia since I was 10 years old. So that was like a big deal. That was one of the first places I ever went alone, was my trip. I'm a go big or go home type of person. So I went all the way on the other side of the world for my first solo trip. I went to Australia, New Zealand, and Bali. And it was an amazing experience, all of it. Bali was the highlight, of course. But I highly recommend all 3 countries. And if you're going to go all the way over there, I say, go for at least a month or something. I just don't think it's worth it getting on a plane and being on a plane for that long to do 2 weeks. I was there for almost 4 weeks. I basically took every vacation day I had and spent it on that trip. Do you think you have to have a certain mindset to visit some of these places as a black female? No. Here's the thing, y'all. And this may not land well with all of you, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you can be black in the United States of America, you can be black anywhere else in the world. If you can live in the United States of America and be black, get your butt on the plane. Do not use that as an excuse to not go somewhere. Don't even let me or anyone else deter you. It's like I feel about Egypt. Lots of people have told me negative things about Egypt. I'm going anyway. I want to see those damn pyramids with my own 2 eyes. I'm going. Don't let anything anyone says deter you from travel. Until you experience it yourself, don't let anybody deter you. If you can be black in America, black and female in America, you could be black and female anywhere else in the world. I have been to Istanbul and Cappadocia in Turkey. I enjoy both. I want to go back to Istanbul. Again, I was working, so I did not get to spend as much time as I wanted. The men in Turkey are beautiful. Oh my goodness. Like, stare and you can't stop staring beautiful, they fine. Like, really good looking. But I stayed in Istanbul, but I took the one weekend where I had a block of time off for myself and wasn't working, and I went to Cappadocia. Loved it, even though none of the balloons went up the weekend I was there because the wind. It was in the fall months, and they monitor the wind, and they said the wind was too high, so they didn't let the balloons go up for the entire weekend, and I was only there for a weekend. So I didn't get to do it. So I would say go to Turkey. I definitely want to go back. I want to go back and stay spend like a week in Istanbul. The little bit of time I got to be there, I really liked it. And I would like to go back and like go see all the things. I didn't get to go to the mosque. I didn't get to do any of the things. All I did was work and go to dinner with my friend that was on the trip with me. But he got to go out and do stuff, my coworker, and had all these pictures to show me when I got back from Cappadocia. But I didn't get to do it. But I think Cappadocia is definitely worth it. It's very inexpensive to fly to the airport there, and then you have to take a taxi or car. I got a private car to drive me into the town and stay in one of the cave hotels. I did the whole thing, and I enjoyed it. I would go back to Cappadocia. I enjoyed it, and I would go back. But the next time I want to go to Istanbul and I want to go to the coast to Bodrum, but I want to do that. I appreciate the fact that you're not American, but that's my my mindset and my lens, because I am American. But I just don't think that anyone should allow being black to be a reason they don't go somewhere. I don't. I think that there are things that you need to consider. And there's certain places that you might have lower on the list and other places you might have higher on the list. But I think if there's somewhere you really want to go, you should make the proper planning and you should go. It's just like going to Egypt to me. Don't go by yourself, but go with other people, because they can serve as a buffer for you. Especially if there's a place that you really want to go and there are things that you really want to see. that's still my answer. I just don't think that I would never let that be the reason I don't go somewhere. Like that be the singular reason I don't go somewhere. Because like I said, I've been to Rome more than once, and I know what Rome is like. But I went back to Rome to see the Sistine Chapel. Now that I've seen the Sistine Chapel, I don't need to go back, so I won't go back. So I only transit through there now. But I wasn't gonna not go see something that I've always wanted to see since I was a kid, just for that reason. So that's just how I think about it. Any other questions? I agree with you. The world is ours as much as anyone's. That's kind of how I think about it. I just don't want us to like miss out on those things just for that reason. I just think it's a huge world, and there's so much world to see. And you know, obviously you do your homework, and so you know you got a certain amount of money. You put your investments in the things that you think you're going to get the most enjoyment from, but don't not go somewhere. Caribbean countries. I'm actually headed to the Caribbean soon. I mean, this may require another live, and maybe I'll do another live another time to talk about my thoughts about how colonialism and white supremacy has impacted black and brown majority countries, the things that I've observed on my travels. Because that's one thing I will say about being in the Caribbean, and even in places I visited in Africa, colonialism has really done a number on us as black people. My parents are from Trinidad and Tobago, so yeah, I've been there. I've been to half of the ABC Islands, and I've been to St. Lucia. I'm actually headed to Trinidad and Tobago very soon. I feel like, I wouldn't say I've experienced racism in those countries, but I've definitely experienced some colorism, seen some colorism. So I may do a video just about that, because there's more depth that we would need to have to talk about that subject than I'm ready to do, because it's almost been an hour, so I'm getting ready to sign off in a minute. But my favorite island, and I'm gonna say this, and people in my family might cuss me out. For sentimental reasons, I love Tobago. And I love Tobago sometimes in spite of some of the things that I have, experienced being in Tobago. I still love it. I think it's one of the most beautiful islands, like unspoiled, beautiful places. The island of Tobago. I'm not talking about Trinidad. I'm talking about Tobago. I think Trinidad has some of the best food I've ever eaten in the world. And I've now eaten all over the world. So I'm saying this not just because I live there and, my parents are from Tobago. But some of the best food in the world you will eat in Trinidad and Tobago, period. I'm not asking, I'm just saying. I've been to Jamaica, Aruba, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, Curacao. Have I been anywhere else? Dominican Republic. I feel like I'm leaving somewhere else. I haven't been to Grenada, and I haven't been to Barbados. Grenada is pretty high on my list, as is Barbados. I'd like to go to both. I keep hearing how expensive Barbados is, which is why I still haven't been. My cousin, one of my favorite people is my cousin's husband, and he is from Beckway, which is part of the Grenadines. So I really want to go there, because he's always talking to me about how beautiful St. Vincent and Grenadines are. So I really want to go there. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the Caribbean. The reason I stopped going was because there's so many other countries that I hadn't been to, and I kept going to Jamaica because there's a lot of fun. Jamaica to me is one of the most fun islands to visit. I'm planning a meetup there actually next year, because I just love being in Jamaica. It's a fun place. I'm always like, if you've never been to Grenada, to the Caribbean, Jamaica's a really great first place to go. So I decided to widen my horizons. Oh, I've also been to Puerto Rico. I decided to widen my horizons, and that's why I haven't been to other islands, because I started going to other places and I never got back around to the Caribbean. So now I'm trying to intentionally plan to go to a different Caribbean island at least every year, starting next year, just so I can check out more of them, because I want to go to Dominica. I would like to go to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'd like to go to Grenada. I would like to go to Barbados. Now, I've also been to the Bahamas. I did not love St. Lucia. And when we talk about colonialism and the Caribbean and Africa, which I can make my next live, I'll explain why I didn't like St. Lucia in depth and in detail. Yeah, of all the Caribbean islands I've been to, I would say that is the one place that I don't really need to go back to. I don't think I would be going back. It's pretty though. But you know, after a while, when you get around the Caribbean, for me, a palm tree is a palm tree, a nice beach is a nice beach. So the country has to offer more than that. And for me, St. Lucia just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. I mean, when you talk about colonialized, yeah, I'll talk more about that next week. But I'm going to have to open up another bottle of wine to talk about St. Lucia. But definitely enjoyed. Aruba is actually probably my favorite island of all the islands I've been to outside of Trinidad and Tobago. I loved Aruba. Like, I really loved it there. Like, was looking at, can I buy an apartment there at one point. I loved Aruba. The people are really nice. It's so beautiful. Like, the white sand, the water, it's breezy all the time. I just really loved it. Didn't love Curacao as much, but really loved Aruba. So I feel I mentioned all the Caribbean places. I didn't really love Bahamas, but I only went to Nassau, and I don't feel the Bahamas is another place I feel like I need to give another visit, and like get around the islands and see it, not just Nassau, because I went to Nassau as a part of a cruise, Disney cruise, my son. And then I also went to Nassau and stayed at an all-inclusive resort. Me and my cousin went for her 30th birthday one time, and I didn't love it. So I went to Paradise Island. I didn't love it. So I probably would want to go to some of the other islands in the Bahamas, but I wouldn't want to go back to like Paradise Island or Nassau, one of those places. But I don't feel like I've seen enough of it to like definitively say. Like, the way I feel about St. Lucia is not how I feel about the Bahamas. I just feel like I need to see more of the Bahamas that isn't like the main primary central tourist district. So yeah, that's kind of the Caribbean for me. And you guys know where I've been in Africa already. I think I've been ports of North and West and East. Have not yet been South Africa. That's on the list for next year, God willing. That will not be a group trip, but I'm planning to go to South Africa next year. I'm working on that trip right now. I think that covers what I wanted to talk about tonight. There's a lot of you guys on here. Thanks for being here tonight and hanging in while I ran my mouth for all this time. I hope that it's helpful. I've not been to Namibia, and I don't know that much about it. I mean, I have friends who've been, so I really can't comment on it. But what I've heard was positive. I can share that. But I've been to Senegal, Ghana, Senegal, Ghana, Kenya. I've been to Kenya 3 times. Tunisia, going to Egypt soon, going back to Ghana. Haven't been to Nigeria, which I actually would like to visit, Lagos. Yeah, I think, and Tanzania, of course. I've been to Tanzania, which is where Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam is. But I haven't been to any of the other countries. I really want to go to Zimbabwe as well. So when I go to South Africa, I'm going to try to fit in. I want to see the Victoria Falls. That's what on my bucket list of things that I want to see. So I'm already trying to figure out how to make that happen. Yeah. So I hope this was useful. I hope it was interesting. I always like talking to you guys. I had a really long day today, so I was kind of like tired, but you guys woke me back up. So thanks for being here. Thanks for the really great questions. This will be up on the channel, so if you came in late, you can watch all of it later as a replay. And you can add questions because I try to check the comments and answer questions. So if you have other questions about places, I'm happy to try to answer them as you add them to the replay. I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you following me. I hope that I encourage you guys to travel, whether it's with groups or by yourself. There's a big world. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late to get on a plane. Don't wait for other people. Don't let anybody make you feel that it's too dangerous or it's too scary or whatever. There's always a way to do it that will meet your comfort level. So don't let fear be the reason that you don't travel. There's a perfect place and a perfect trip for every single one of us. The world is big and life is short. Get on the plane. You guys have a good night. Bye. This live doesn't want to end. Bye, guys.